Hey guys, welcome out to the Pod of All podcast. I am your host, UF Gizmo, joined by CW Lanky.
Hello, Davey.
Hello there. And of course, the light of God above him. It's Pengles.
Hi, everyone.
So, gang, it's another week. Stuff's starting to open up now. You might even be able to hear my neighbours having a rave in the background because there is no stopping them. How are we doing? How are we feeling today?
Okay.
It's lovely. It's summer weather. Beautiful.
Man City have just lost. Oh, it's everything.
Everything is right in the world.
Terrible.
But we're not here to talk about the woes of Man City. We're here to talk about video games. So if you're on the channel today, you'll see that there's a video from me where I talk to myself for an hour. So check that out as we talk about trophies. I want to kind of try and trick those two into doing similar videos. The Chris's might be a 6-parter because there's a lot of games to get through. A lot of that first 1% section will take a while, big boy, won't it? So Craig's will be a very different video. Be like, complete that.
Look at your video, so I will give that a proper watch later.
Yeah, it's definitely it's love making material or it's
I was just
podcast material.
disappointed that it was PlayStation trophies, but then
if you when you watch the video, you'll know that there'll probably be an Xbox One eventually as well. But I figured I'd start with the one with the easier thing, less games. So that aside, it's a usual week. This is a big episode, Craig, because we've been bigging this one up. This is the top 25 games, so we're going to get to that as quick as we can.
Oh, I am excited.
It's very interesting, the combined list.
So for the viewers, me and Chris don't actually know.
No,
we are in the dark.
Only I am spoilt, and it's great stuff.
So I've been thinking all week what could have happened. I can't wait. I'm excited.
Yeah. There's only two games I can think are number one. So.
Well, we will see.
We'll get to it soon.
We will see shortly. So let's start with, as we mean to go on, Chris, with you telling us about your games of this week.
Oh, what I've been playing? I have been playing not as much as last week. So I picked, because obviously the shops are open and supporting the local independent game shop opening, and that they were like Facebook like on their thing about they got some unusual like PS4, Switch games and stuff in. So I went in there, traded in a few games and stuff. So I picked up a few things. I haven't got my pickups because it would be like this many, and obviously I've put them where they live. So PS2 with PS2, etc.
Just follow Chris on Twitter and you will see them.
Yeah. So one of the games I picked up and played was Sakuna of Rice and Ruin for the Nintendo Switch. It's also on PS4 and I think PC. So I'm not 100% sure. I picked that up on Switch. Played for about 2 or 3 hours. It's pretty good. I've been recommended a few times by one of the guys on GNamer who even did a big written review for it. It was his game of the year last year as well. So I thought, well, as I had the trade-in value, might as well, if there's a thing looked interesting, and that plays a bit like Muramasa or Odin Sphere, as it's like a 2D. It's not in that sort of art style because the character is like a 3D 2.5 model. Obviously, you're going 2D playing. It's not like an RPG. It's got real-time combat and stuff. What makes this different, it's got a bit of like Harvest Moon sort of elements and stuff like that. You are like a harvest goddess and that, so you got like plants, rice and stuff, and obviously make that grow because you got to try this island of demons and like flush them out from the island. But obviously on this island you need food and water, etc. So you start to grow rice, which splits up the whole dungeon crawling parts. So you do a bit of dungeon crawling, get some materials and stuff like that, and then you go back to like your little house. You got some other NPCs and stuff with you, and you grow your crops and stuff like that, and fertilize them and stuff. I'm trying to think of other games similar, like I guess Dark Clouds, but obviously you're in like a bigger dungeon. You dig a whole village there. What I'm really impressed though of it, it looks fantastic. It is on Switch. Like last week I said about EX Fighters and how that looked pretty bad. I know it's free to play, but it's free to play on PlayStation. That one of the characters is supposed to have 2 colored, and it's like the same colors as that. This looks really good, especially in the village. The village bit is proper 3D, so you like walk around and stuff like that. It's one of the most impressive looking Switch games I've seen. I guess because it's quite a small game, like the little hub of your house is literally your house and a bit of a field. Maybe it gets bigger as the game goes on. So really impressed with that. Next game I played was The Complex, which is a full motion video game by Wells Interactive, which basically that's all they do now. They did Made of Scare or Scare or something like that, I think last year, which is like a bad horror game. I think it reviewed very badly, and that's so better they stick to full motion video games because they seem to be better than their like proper game that they tried.
I had an interview at that studio once.
I've actually, I've interviewed that.
I interviewed for a job there.
Oh no! See, I interviewed him as a video game
journalist, hard hitting journalist, Chris Bengay.
I don't want to say that, and so I think I went to a weird after party where they were the main hosts, and so sort of thing. So it's like I said, a full motion video. It's like an hour and a half long, like a film, because that's basically what it is. But you get to make choices along the way, and it's also quite, I guess, at the moment playing it, maybe in a bit of poor taste because it's about a virus. It's in London, and you're this obviously scientist woman that's been making this virus, and then it gets out, and obviously someone gets affected, and you get locked in a room and stuff like that. But obviously you got to make choices along the way. What will happen? So
this was number one on the True Achievements Easy Completions from the Xbox sale, and I'm sure that's no reason why you played it, Chris. But...
I don't think it was number one. I think it was number two, because the number one I haven't actually put on this list because I don't think you can even say I played it. So, because it was literally about 5 seconds long.
A lot of this was covered in my hour-long trophy video, by the way. Just about Chris's problems.
So the next one I played was Rain on Your Parade, which just come to Game Pass, getting other things. Actually, most of the coverage I've seen and the stuff of it has been from Nintendo side of stuff. But it's got that silly wackiness to it, like a Donut County or a Untold Goose Game. That sort of premise, because you're a cloud and you go around rain on things. And you're like, oh, I'm a silly cloud. You do other things, like you get electric ability and a twister ability and stuff like that. It's reviewed well, and if I didn't have an Xbox and I didn't have Game Pass, it's reviewed pretty well. It looks pretty good. I mostly would have bought it on PlayStation or on Switch. I would have been disappointed if I bought it. I don't think it's that good. There is better examples of this sort of game. Like I said, Donut County, Untold Goose Game. You go back further, like a Katamari and stuff like that. It was a fine hour and a half, 2 hour afternoon. Finishing work, I put this on, brand new, new game straight into Game Pass. But that's it. It was just a fun afternoon. And then when I started yesterday, I got a review code for this. So obviously, got to say that this is a review code thing. It was Hitchhiker. I've only done 2 rides. There's 5 rides, so 5 missions. I say rides because obviously you are hitchhiking. It's got a Twilight, not Twilight the film, Twilight Saga or I figured Twilight Zone is what I'm actually thinking of. That weird mystery thing, and obviously this weird stuff happens on your car ride and stuff like that. It plays a bit like a visual novel and stuff, so you get choices of dialogue of whoever's driving, and there is puzzles or look out the window, did you spot that windmill or something like that. It's got some in the second ride you got to make this weird camera out of stuff, and you're looking for this dog, but it gets kind of weird on that. Definitely on the lower budget side, but it has got an interesting sort of premise. So next week I should have finished it. So like I said, I got how like the achievements look on it and stuff like that, it looks like there's 5, and like the menu screen, there's like 5 sort of like rides with different like people that are picking you up along the way. And like I said, I've done 2, so next week I should be able to come back and say, right, I've done all 5. This is what it actually is like, and that's it. Just those 4 games for me.
That's it's one of those games that I feel like Game Pass is kind of almost killed, because I think this is like £17 to buy. I'm guessing it's only digital.
Yeah.
I know, like you said, you're not that far into it, but for £17, would you like recommend this to anyone, or?
At the moment, most probably not. Like you said, is Game Pass if like changed it. Like even going back to Rain on Your Parade, I think it's on sale at the moment, like on Switch. Like its first week, it's like £10 something, and I think that was the better game so far than Hitchhiker. And like I said, I wouldn't even recommend that unless you've like run out of that sort of game. The Hitchhiker, I guess, is kind of visual novel-y, but has got more sort of gameplay elements, because you like look around the car and look around in like the countryside or whatever, compared to like a standard visual novel where it's just normal like text on the screen. So it gives you something slightly different in that case. But yeah, it's definitely one. If it's on the Xbox side, maybe wait till if it comes to Game Pass. I don't know if Plan of Attack is who provided the code for me, so I don't know if like their games come to Game Pass or not, or possibly like wait for a sale on any of the formats. It's on all formats. It's on mobile as well, so there's plenty of options like out there to play it where it could be cheap at some point.
Fair enough. Very concise from you this week, Chris. It was only 10 minutes. I know last week was an hour straight of Chris's week off, but so it's a very indie heavy week for Chris.
Yeah.
Obviously, we got MLB The Show next week, right? So that's probably the next sort of AAA game that is coming to Game Pass.
Yeah, on AAA, like I still haven't played out like Outriders. I really should still give it a
we played it quite a bit, and then I think the server problems have really halted the momentum. I think for me anyway, personally, because I was quite enjoying jumping on that with Craig, and then every time we seemed to go on, there seemed to be a problem. And it was just
sounds like
it's fixed now.
Most recent tweets, because they have been very kind of good at updating the community. It does sound like they might have fixed it now, so it'd be interesting when we do finally manage to jump back on, see if it is any better.
Yeah. So I can drag my ass back to Xbox for next week, eh? So Craig, what have you been playing, big dog?
So I've only really played one game this week, which is Undertale, which is another Game Pass game for me. And I would say I kind of went this completely like blank. I didn't really know anything about it, and I would agree with both of you that I don't really see how this game got the reviews it got. It is okay at best, to use a Chris analogy. The story's okay. It's decent, and the art style is kind of cool, I guess. But it does it's one of those where it's kind of cool for like half an hour, and then you're like, a game's kind of moved on for this for a reason, I guess. And the battle system is awful. I absolutely hate the battle system. Partially because it's turn-based. I don't like turn-based, but more so because of the way when the enemies attack you, you have this like weird kind of like really low budget bullet hell thing where you have to dodge their like projectiles in the box, and it is awful. It feels so like unreactive, and like there's times when you just like there's no way I can dodge this. There's so much like going on in this little box. The battle system's awful. But yeah, the game's okay. I did manage to get the completion for it. I think it took me about 4 or 5 hours in the end. Yeah. I know you can, if you want to just use a guide, I think you can do it in about 2 hours. If you really hate games that much, you just want to run through it. That is an option. But I thought I'd actually give it a go and play it properly. So it's okay. But yeah, it's I think it's got like a Metacritic of like 91 or something like that, and it is nowhere near that.
No.
This is what I've always said. I've always said it's like really good, but still over like it's weird. It's like it's a really good game, but still overrated. When you go like 91, like that's too high. Where like if I had to review it, I'd give it like maybe an 80 or something. I know that's only like
I'd even say that's generous, personally.
Yeah,
I think on true achievements, I'd probably give this like a 3, which is like a 6 out of 10 in it. So.
Yeah, it's one of those games that I kind of get it, because it's when you realize that you don't actually have to, there's like, you don't have to kill anyone, and it's one of those games that's very artsy and like makes you think, and I think that's why I think that's why it reviewed so highly. I don't think the gameplay is the reason. Personally, I think the music might be a reason, and people love the music. But then a lot of the better tracks are if you do like a genocide run. So like if you decide to kill everyone and you
pacifist run.
Yeah, and it's interesting. It's one of those. It's kind of a meme game. I don't know if that's going to upset people the same, but it's okay. It's a perfect Game Pass game. To be fair, I don't think it was particularly expensive when it came out. I got it on Vita. I think it was like £11, Chris, something like that. It wasn't like,
I don't know. I got a physical on Vita.
Of course you did, but yeah, it's one of those. Like I can understand the overrating thing. I think 80 is probably generous. I think that's about fair. I think it has some interesting things about it, but like the core gameplay is nothing to write home about. I would agree with that. Nice, Craig. So that's a pretty concise week from you as well.
Yes.
Look at this. Good stuff. This is what happens when none of us have a week off. As soon as there's a week off, boys, it's chaos. It really is.
Oh, I do have my one pick up as well.
You've got a pick up.
Yeah. I do have one as well. There's part of my pickup. It's just I couldn't be trying to figure out the Bluetooth settings with the laptop.
Of course.
So I haven't actually managed to use it very much because I only picked it up this morning. I'll probably next week go into more detail about it, but it is incredibly easy to set up and things like that. You literally press one button and then press the link button on your console, and it pretty much does everything itself.
Nice. Well, next week we will probably do a headset versus review, because obviously now that between us, we've used the two, the main competitor headsets. So I think we'll probably do a short headset review next week, especially because Chris has had both, so it'd be perfect. Setting for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, keep those thoughts. But yeah, so Craig's got the new headset if you didn't hear. Chris has got it as well. He's not using it at the moment. So very cool that both companies have put out very high quality headsets. So I look forward to talking about that next time. So as for games for me, I've only been playing 2, really. So I've been playing, if you watch my video, I've been playing Marvel Spider-Man. Is it 2018, Chris? Or was it 2017?
It was 2018, because I remember everyone saying if it come out any other year, but obviously like God of War I think came out the same year, and that's like took all the awards and that. So
so I've gone back to the PS4 version of that to get the platinum, to be honest, because I quite enjoyed Miles Morales, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to go back and get the platinum and do the DLC, and then I'll come back and do a New Game Plus for Miles Morales. I'm very close. I need to do the generic crimes that sort of populate as you populate from jumping around, and a couple side quests. So I think about 4 trophies away from getting the platinum there, which I'm all about at the moment, all about the plats, which is, as I said in my video, Craig's upset.
That was the most annoying bit with Spider-Man, was the random ones, because I think I was missing for ages the one trophy, and it's the one where you have to stop the car or something.
I've done the car, I've done that trophy.
And like every time it would pop up, it would not be the car. I'm like...
I think the problem is, if I'd realised that I was actually going to go for the platinum when I was playing the game originally, I would have done a lot more as I was going. Whereas now, every time I see it, I stop what I'm doing and go and do the random crimes. It's still a good game. I'm wondering if it's going to twist my thoughts on it, because I've always ranked it 3rd out of the big 3, out of Horizon, God of War, and itself. But I wonder if it sneaks above God of War at the moment. I am planning to play God of War now. It's got its PS5 patch, and I wonder how that holds up, because I barely touched the side quest on God of War when I played it the first time, so I'll be interested. Yeah, and I think I enjoyed a couple. Again, the problem I have, and I talk about it quite a lot in my video, is that I just hated the PS4. So it was very difficult for me to want to do side quests because of the sound. I had my PS4 was a base PS4, and it was so loud playing those type of games that it just wasn't an enjoyable experience. I know that sounds really silly, but it's one of those things that does dramatically affect, like, the way I play, because I'm quite a quiet gamer, so I don't like making a lot of noise. I don't have the TV loud or anything like that, so I don't like to annoy my girlfriend that often if I can avoid it.
You can do me proud, Dave. Is it the Valkyries or the optional bosses?
Yes, the Valkyries. I killed one of them, and it was very difficult. But we'll see. I mean, I'm making a commitment to... You didn't, or you did?
I got to the last one. I did all of them and then got to the Queen of them. It's Signum or something like that.
Yeah.
Brutal.
I've seen a few videos.
You need to get for me, Davey.
I need to be like max level, best armor, like properly skilled at it. So we'll give it a go. I wonder if at 60 frames it's easier because you'll be able to react quicker. We'll give it a go. The only other thing I've been playing is my Evercade, which I've had for like a year. It's not something I've talked about on the podcast before. It's a little retro handheld machine by a British company called Blaze. It's actually very cheap. It's actually it's a £50 model.
I didn't know Blaze the Cat was British.
Blaze the Cat is British. Pete, Chris, as you know. The thing with the Evercade, for those that are uneducated, which is Craig in this scenario, is it's basically, so you know, for a while people have been putting out like retro machines, right? They always preload them with like 80 games, and then you can like
the minis.
Yeah, and you can you can hack them and install games, basically, right? So it's not that. So what they've done, which I think is genius, is they release games. They have fully licensed games that they release in collections physically, in cartridges in a case for about £15. So there's like Namco ones, there's Capcom's, there's Atari ones. The ones I really like are the kind of retro British ones. So I've been playing a lot of the Oliver Twins games. I've been playing Interplay, which is also Earthworm Jim. And I think there's a Worms one coming out next month with Worms 2, Armageddon, and Blast. Yeah. And it's basically like a budget retro machine, really. It's good for 8, 16, and 32-bit games. I think I'm getting Sensible Soccer in August as part of the Codemasters collection, which, you know,
one of the firms, the Codemasters got like an unreleased SNES tennis game or something on it.
Yes, it has. Yeah, it has. And they do this cool thing where there's indie packs as well, and there's like a company, I think it's Pico or Mad Cat, that take games that like never came out or like came out differently, and they put them in these collections. It's really cool, actually. It's a very interesting idea, and I kind of like it, and I like supporting the idea of supporting a British console. To me, I know that sounds really yeah, Tories, boy, you know what I mean? Like really weird, but like
you were saying you used to watch the funeral.
Oh, I know, but like it's cool to support that type of thing, and as I was saying, it's very cheap, but it's not lacking in quality. So I've been kind of getting behind that a lot more recently, and it's just a fun little handheld. It's one of those things like, so I always use Craig is always my example for these things because he doesn't have every console, so it's hard to use Chris as an example. Like if Craig was like, I want a handheld machine, but I don't want to spend £300. And I kind of like playing Worms, and I kind of like playing Earthworm Jim, and I don't mind playing Pac-Man. It's perfect. It really is. It's it's no internet connection. It's got rechargeable battery. It's very cheap. It's that type of thing. So I really like it. Next week they are announcing this mysterious Evercade Versus, and I think me and Chris have both got theories that's going to be a little home console that uses the cartridges, which would be really cool if you could add sort of like multiplayer to it locally. Because I mean, even say it's a £50 console and it can use the cartridges I've got, the opportunity to play Sensible Soccer or something, if like Craig came over and we're like, oh, should we play Worms Armageddon? It's a really cool option, and I know that you have Game Pass and you have like the Switch Online thing, but sometimes for people like me and Chris, if you want to collect, it can be difficult nowadays. Like you guys are talking about buying indie games for like £11 and £10 that are like 2 hours long. If I'm able to buy a physical cartridge with 12 games on it for $14.99 and support like a British retailer and have something to collect, I think it's a pretty interesting idea.
It's a pretty good thing, and obviously the Evercade Versus, I've seen some play VS with like video system, not like Versus, and that there was a rumor of an N64 game coming to it, but I don't know what N64 game would run on it. I can't really
there is so it's a surprisingly powerful machine because obviously it runs off like a Snapdragon like mobile chip, and there is one of the most, I think the packet that comes next week has a PS1 era football game. I think it's called Football Madness, which it looks, Craig, like just like ISS Pro or like actual soccer, like those type of football games from back in the day, like FIFA 98, that kind of thing, which is kind of cool. Like I miss the kind of weird retro-y PS1 stuff. So it'd be interesting if they were to do 64 and PS1 style games. I'd be pretty excited. Obviously, you're not going to get like Sony games or anything, but
that's the only thing with like N64. Like when you look past like Nintendo stuff and licensed stuff, like you're not going to get No Mercy on it, for instance. I was like, what is on the N64 that could even fundamentally even come?
Yeah, I mean,
it?
you hope that you'll end up with stuff like Mischief Makers or like Quest 64 really cool. Or something like stuff like that. Which again, I'm happy to try these games. It's stuff that, you know, for developers that just aren't here anymore. Like stuff like Interplay used to be such a big developer when we were younger, Chris, playing on like the Mega Drive. Like it's very Mega Drive heavy, which is cool because I'm a big Sega fan. So have been able to play these type of games, and like I said, they're having these newer devs that make like these sort of new indie games. There's a game on Game Pass, Craig, called Xenocrisis, which is a twin stick top down shooter that's like Smash TV. That is one of the games that's on one of the collections, so it's cool to have that option. You know, you can play it on Game Pass, you can play it physically on a cartridge. I think they even made a Mega Drive version, didn't they, Chris?
Yeah, it was originally a Mega Drive game, and then got, well, a new Mega Drive game. They got ported to like everything.
Yeah, homebrew is the word we're looking for. There's like homebrew cartridges, which is really, again, as a developer and stuff, I find that shit really cool. So yeah, I know I've lost Craig for that 5 minutes. He doesn't know what's going on. No. He's like presuming it's another waste of money.
And you're also going to like the collecting aspect of like these cool retro stuff, and they cut cartridges in clamshells with actual manuals.
With manuals,
stuff. Yeah. Like the price of retro, like I said, I picked up a bunch of games, and most of them I actually picked up in my pickups were PS3 games, due to obviously what's happening with the PS3. And I thought, well, I'll pick them up because they're cheap at the moment, and they might go up. And that's like also the thing with retro at the moment. Some of the prices of some of the games, like
lockdowns hit it hard.
Especially GameCube and some of like the higher now Vita games, for instance, already going through the roof, and that's literally hasn't even gone offline yet. So you got this option of like, oh, I want to collect, and it's like 10-15 quid. It's a very cheap option to collect for, and they, like you said, they come in these cool cases. I guess the argument could be like, oh, you're an Xbox, why don't I just collect Xbox games of some angle? You own a PS4, collect PS4 games. I guess that's the only thing, but it is really neat for that sort of aspect, considering how retro is going at the moment.
Yeah, and I think as well, like it's nice to have, for someone like me that likes old games, it's nice to have two options. It's nice to be able to go, you know, I can play modern games through Game Pass, basically, without having to pay too much money. Then if I want to do something a little bit different, I want to play a handheld game and not spend 60 quid. Like, for example, if I were to buy Ratchet and Clank, that's 70 quid. I could get 5 of these sets that have a minimum of like 2 or 3 games and a maximum of like 12 games. You know what I mean? And they're good quality as well. So, but yeah, that's what I've been playing. Me and Chris may even do an Evercade video at some point, because I love talking about it. So it has HDMI out, so I can stream it as well, which is exciting. But let's get on to the main event. So last week I tasked the boys to send me their top 25 games, and I did my own, obviously. We each points were assigned from 1st to 25th. I've combined the lists. Okay, so before we get started, boys, is there any early predictions before we go through? And I'll tell you nothing.
Oh, okay. I have an early prediction for a game. I think as a game, I think probably be in mine and Chris's list, and it might be in yours, Dave, but it might be a different series. That'd be Forza Horizon 4. I reckon it's going to be very, very high.
Okay.
There's also
that's my prediction to be number 1.
Yeah, I could see that being number 1. There is. So I also thought Mass Effect 2 would probably win it, just because I know you two love that, and I suspect that might be Dave's number 1, or maybe in his top 5.
Okay.
And I thought that would be in Chris's top 5, but I know how stiff Chris is with his. He either has all the Mass Effect games or none of the Mass Effect games. So I think if Chris is being honest, it probably would be near the top of winning, but I imagine it probably won't.
Interesting. Right, boys. So what I'm not going to do is I was going to do games that aren't in it, but I'm not going to do that. Go on, Chris.
The only other prediction that could be up there, due to I've placed it quite high, and I'm 99% sure it's going to be very high on your list, Dave. So it's only going to be on 2 lists, but I think it's going to be high, and maybe high enough on both lists to get enough points. Maybe Final Fantasy 9 could take first, but that's the only other one I can think. That's my 2 that could be first or second. I think Forza will be on all 3 lists. but we'll just get.
See, I don't know. I think Dave might have put Horizon 3, not 4. That's the only thing that makes you think it might not be Horizon 4.
I don't know if they get enough points.
I love this. By the way, I love this.
But I think Final Fantasy 9 will be high enough on like 2 lists, and it might get it. That's my 2 thinkings.
Well, are you ready?
Yes.
Right. So without further ado, number 25 on the Pod of War top 25 games with 19 points is Journey.
Okay.
Now, obviously, that is entirely Chris. So, Chris, what are your thoughts on Journey?
Well, basically, I talked about Journey last week for about 20 minutes. So I don't really want to bore everyone.
Watch last week.
With more Journey talk. But yeah.
So this was 6th on your list, Chris, I guess?
There would be 7th, I guess. I got my list up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th. Yep, the 7th place.
So yeah, the bottom ones there's quite a lot of stuff that's only on like single lists. But again, this list starts with Journey at number 25.
Okay.
Number 24, also on 19 points. And I've ordered this either alphabetically, or if something has been picked twice, it immediately goes above something that's picked once if it's a tie. Okay. But number 24 with 19 points is Grand Theft Auto 5, which I believe is all Craig. There were other Grand Theft Autos, but obviously they were not the same Grand Theft Auto, which is why it is so low on the list. So Craig, GTA, an important game for you?
7, just looking at that, yeah, I really like GTA 5. More for the single player than the multiplayer, because the multiplayer is kind of a bit difficult and finicky to actually do what you want to do. But the single player I love. I've played it twice in the end. I played it on the 360 when it launched, and it just about ran on the 360, especially on my very old 360.
A lot of low times.
Played it. Oh yeah, and if you were traveling in a fast car, God, it really struggled to actually load the road that you were driving on. And I played it again when it came out on Xbox One, and again really liked it. And obviously it's soon becoming revamped again for this gen, so that game is going to survive 3 consoles, which is mental.
And it will stay in the top 10 sales charts forever.
Yep. Is it still the highest grossing media thing ever, isn't it?
It's never going to stop. The GTAs that missed out, GTA 3 was on Craig's list. GTA Vice City was on my list. GTA does not make it much further than 24th. So number 23, another Chris Pengelly pick, and this one is The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. Our 23rd.
You disappoint me. You really disappoint me, Dave.
When have I ever said that Ocarina of Time is going to be on my list?
I don't know. I just thought maybe you put it on low because it's Ocarina of Time.
Is that Craig with an actual Ocarina of Time card?
Look at that. I randomly stumbled across this the other day.
You need to fix your N64 because you are sitting on a gold mine, my friend. You are sitting on a gold mine. So obviously, Chris, Ocarina of Time is one of the most beloved games of all time. It's very much the template for the 3D Zeldas. Yeah. Let me just check it's not got further up the list. So yes, the only Zelda game I had on my list was Breath of the Wild, which did not make it. Craig did not have a Zelda on his, despite owning Ocarina of Time. He did not have.
I don't know if I've played it. I'm not actually sure where it came from. I had no idea that I had that.
I need to find your N64, Craig. We're gonna fix it. We'll do a video.
I've tried to find it before. I feel like it might have been thrown out by mistake.
Time for eBay.
Yeah.
So yes. Any thoughts, Chris? I know you're disappointed.
Yeah, I'm disappointed in that. Because the next few of mine, I can kind of get no one else voting for, apart from maybe my number 1 pick. But yeah, I'm disappointed that one to get more picks. Because, like you said, it's one of the most beloved games of all time. It's like the template of Zelda. Again, going back to last week, these 2 first ones for me. I talk about Zelda quite a bit with regards of games we dislike, and I bring up Ocarina of Time being the template Zelda compared to Breath of the Wild. So, yeah. Yeah,
it's one of those. I think if I were to have a non-Breath of the Wild Zelda, it would be a later game. I mean, Ocarina of Time for me has aged. I get it. I didn't play it on the N64 at the time, so it's one of those things.
See, this is the thing. I didn't play it on the N64 at the time as well, because a lot of people go, "Oh, it's nostalgia" or something like that. I played it after.
I played it on GameCube.
I played it on GameCube as well on the collector's disc. So that's the first time I played it, and I was blown away. I'm like, okay. because I didn't really play N64. I was PS1 like kid, so I was like, oh okay. That's when I think I picked up my first N64 after playing Ocarina of Time on GameCube.
It was only Saturn, Chris, and you know it.
And then played it obviously since. Like the 3DS version is absolutely like it was the best version to play now. It really needs like a HD port to like the Switch. So that would be fantastic if that was to happen.
Nice. Well, let's move on to number 22 on 20 points. Mass Effect 2.
Wow.
I'm not sure if it was on Chris's list because I don't have it to hand. No. It is on my list.
I don't think he would have put it on because he would
have done the trilogy. Mass Effect 2 is one of those games that's actually fallen down my list over the years because I need to go back to it. It's one of those games that is the perfect sequel to a game I already loved. It just does everything that the first game did but better. The characters are great. The combat's massively improved. The story's fantastic. You really get connected to these characters. I know that's a really like lame thing to say, but like you really care by the end of that game, and it just does everything. Everything it does is better. It's one of those. Mass Effect is a series. It's a series I always recommend to people. Obviously, you've got the Legendary Edition coming out soon, but 2 is the pinnacle of that series, in my opinion. I don't think 3 reaches the same heights.
It is the best one of the 3, and if I was going to rank any of them, it would be that one. But it was actually talking about the Legendary Edition. Was like it's coming up pretty soon. Like I should be excited for that game. How high I've always replaced the Mass Effect like trilogy. Has always been down as a trilogy, and like obviously this collection is coming. It's like I should be really excited for that. I could not care at all. So even if I was like just playing Mass Effect 2, I'm like, well, I'm not excited for the collection. So is this actually that good? So that's why I decided not to even place it at all. Because I think it is one of the. Again, they're talking like top 25. I had a list of like 70 games that I narrowed this down to. There's loads of stuff missing. Like if you went, top 100, yes, it would be in there. But there's a bit of difference from being number 100 and number 17 or something. There's a big difference in the quality, and that's really why I didn't put it in at all.
That's some slander there from Chris. Considering the games I know that are on his list, that is some absolute slander. Anyway. Moving on, the first game which has multiple votes, I believe, and I'm the one that didn't vote for it, with 20 points in 21st, Halo Reach.
Oh, nice. This was I had 2 Halo games on mine. Just a bit of a spoiler for coming up, and that was the lower rate of mine, I think.
I actually think, I haven't checked, I think all 3 of us had 2 Halo games.
I got 2 Halo games
I'm pretty sure I did as well. So it's Halo. I think Halo had the most votes overall. If you combined the series, Halo would have won.
That doesn't surprise me. This was Bungie's last Halo as well, wasn't it? It's kind of the most...
And their worst one.
Yeah, I know Dave doesn't like it. But it's kind of their most kind of down-to-earth. Kind of.
There's a pun there, Craig, because it wasn't on Earth.
Of the Halo games. I love the ending still to this day. The whole, getting left to fight off the waves and all that. It's great.
Yeah, my problem with the Reach has always been the package of Reach. The main campaign I always thought was very good. We played it a couple of years ago, Craig, in Legendary, and we really enjoyed it. Its issue for me has always been the multiplayer. It's the weakest multiplayer for me.
This was my most played Halo multiplayer, partly because I absolutely love the DMR.
This was also sweaty Craig era, though, isn't it? Like sweaty Black Ops Craig era. The controls suck on the 360 version. I played it a couple of years ago, and you can't remap the controls, and it is awful. And that's really my issue with it. I remember playing it when it came out, and I was so disappointed. But I can understand why people would put it on their lists, 100%. Again, all of the Halo games are good games. Like even 4 and 5, which people don't like as much, are still good games. So it's as a series, it's a pretty good bar. And it is not I don't think it's the only time it's on this list. Let me double check. It is not the only time it's on this list. Okay, so let's move on before we hear too long. Let's move on to this one and get past this one very quickly. Number 20, 21 points, Death Stranding.
Yep, which is obviously my choice.
So this is 4 or 5 for you?
It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It is number 5.
Work the maths backwards. It's 5th.
Yeah. Yes, it is the 5th game on my list. I guess it could have a bit of recency bias because it is quite fresh in the memory.
It's got some Kojima bias, Chris. That's what it's got.
It has got. You could say it's got some Kojima bias on it as well.
It could, and we will.
Yeah, so it is quite fresh in memory because it came out. 2019. Yeah, 2019. And obviously, with the story and that, and obviously with what's happening like in the last 12 months as well, it's sort of been in sort of like the gaming news and stuff like that as well. Yeah, I found it to be a fantastic experience, and that it's I know you're gonna like laugh, obviously that's what I say because that's what it is. It's not for everyone. I think people that do like it really like it, like me, and people that don't like it as very Marmite.
Yeah, it's one of the most Marmite games on this list. And my friend Pete, whose opinion about games I trust, loves it as well. So it's one of those that like I get it. I'd like to try it. I'm kind of hoping this Kojima rumor is true with Xbox, and perhaps we can get. I mean, I'd love it on Game Pass. I don't think it's going to happen, but if I ever got it on games for like PS Plus or something, I would certainly give it a try. But yeah, that is number 20 in our combined list, Death Stranding. Now on to a much better game, which is for the same points, number 19, 21 points, Lost Odyssey. Obviously, that is from my list. That is a sort of JRPG that was on the Xbox 360 from the creator of Final Fantasy. It's one of my favorite RPGs of all time. The story is fantastic. The Thousand Memories side stories are so impactful, telling the story of Kaim and the 1,000 years that he's been through, and it just does a lot of great stuff. Combat wise, it's a very straightforward turn-based JRPG, but it really goes places. It was 4 discs on the 360, Craig, which is great stuff. One of the first games of that ilk on the console as well, so it holds a special place for me. And and
it was quite early on as well that it was like
it was like 07, 08, something like that.
Yeah, it wasn't like GTA, like the Xbox 360 is like struggling for this. It was just like it was that big, it's just and
massive, and it's great.
And still, from far as I'm aware, obviously it's been 1X enhanced, I believe. So obviously on the Series X it gets that as well. It still looks really good. I've never actually played it, which is quite surprising because I do like my JRPGs, but I've totally missed it. I've never got around to playing it.
Is it long?
No, I don't think so. I think you can beat it in 50. I think the way Chris had played, you beat it in 50.
That's long for Chris.
It's worth it. Like if you haven't played it, like 100, like it's well up your avenue, Chris. So I would really recommend that. They did give it away not too long ago.
Yeah, I've got it. I got it digitally, and I got it physical on 360 as well. So
yeah, you should. That's one you should. If you ever get a break in the Pengy cycle, you should definitely jump on that. It's on Unreal Engine game which is very unusual for a JRPG, which is why it looks so good still. But yeah, Lost Odyssey. We won't dwell on it too much because it's a Dave only game, but yeah, really great game on the 360. So next up is another Chris game. 22 points. Specifically the PS2 version, which is interesting.
Well, I didn't really. I was just putting like a little.
I'm just reading what's written here, Chris.
Yeah, I just put because obviously it's a PS2 game. It got a remaster on PS3,
and the game is Shadow of the Colossus.
Yes. So this, like I said, it started on PS2, got remastered on PS3, a remake on PS4, which is very close to the original, but does improve it immensely. Because it was a late PS2 game, and you can sort of tell it was a late PS2 game, sort of thing. Like I think the 360 was out, and maybe even the PS3 might have been out. I can't remember totally. I did play it on PS2, when it came out. It's like one of those weird ones. Like by then, like I said, I think the 360 was definitely out. So I just picked up like on the whim. I think it was like cheap in game or something, and like I was absolutely blown away by it. And the remake, I always had it in like my top 25, but the remake just totally cemented it, being like it's my number 4. It is again in terms of like similar to like Death Stranding, like more of an it's like experience where you're playing obviously as the one like wanderer, like with your horse, like to take down these Colossus, and then obviously the ending, which I don't want to spoil, is like really like impactful, and like the art design, the soundtrack, and that has got issues. People bring up the controls of it being a pain, especially on the PS2. It's one of those weird ones because the creator of it, and I kind of get it, is like the controls are like deliberately like that because it's supposed to be like your battle against.
It's bad on purpose. I love that. I love that excuse.
Yes, it's bad on like purpose because it's like your battle against. It's your battle against the Colossus, and it's supposed to be like this is what it feels like to battle this Colossus. But on like PS2, you use triangle, for instance, to like grab and that, which always seemed awkward. But on the remake, you use cross to that instead, so it still feels the same. But obviously, the button layout is much better. So that is much improved on there. Yeah, it's fantastic. Like I don't know if I own a PS2 version at the moment, but definitely own it on PS4 and PS3. I really should own a PS2 version. And Ico was in like I said, like the top what I was running down. That was definitely sort of like considered for this list is well. Last Guardian, as you would not be surprised, was not considered for the list.
Nice. Well, it sits nicely in number 18 on our list. Now, the next one was such a travesty that I almost didn't do this episode, to be honest, boys. My disappointment in you both is palpable. With 22 points, number 17, of course, is Sleeping Dogs, which is arguably the best game on the Xbox 360 and the PS3, and you should all be ashamed of yourself. But yeah, Sleeping Dogs is one.
This would be high for some reason.
Yeah, this is such a Dave game. Like, I talk about it on every episode, and I don't know how many times I've told Craig to play it. Like, there should be a running count, like on the show. But Sleeping Dogs is such a fascinating game to me because I had no expectations for it. I was expecting absolutely nothing. And it came out at like £35 on the 360. I picked it up. It's essentially GTA set in Hong Kong with Batman's combat system, and it's just the best of its type. The map isn't so big that it's annoying. The car mechanics are fantastic. So like the races are actually pretty fun. You know what I mean? All the little side activities have that little hint of Yakuza, and it's kind of like a bit of karaoke and a little bit of cockfighting and all this kind of stuff. And like I said, the battle system just gets better and better and better as you play because you learn lots of kung fu moves, for want of a better term, and you just feel like you're a badass in a sort of Jackie Chan but slightly darker, like Hong Kong cop film.
I was gonna say, I get sort of, for what I've seen of it, and like, I get like John Woo sort of vibes.
Kind of, it's a better quality than say like John Woo Stranglehold, for example. It's a much better quality game than that. It is disgusting that they never got to make a proper sequel because it's so good. It hit at that time as well, like just around like Tomb Raider and that kind of thing. Square were trying these Western games. It was originally obviously a true crime game. That's where it's originally it was True Crime in Hong Kong. I think its original working title before they lost that license. But yeah, I mean, I always recommend Sleeping Dogs because it's always cheap. It's always on sale. It's always on like £3 on sale, and it's like a 25-hour experience. And I think it's one of the best. Obviously, I am the only one that thinks this. So
yeah,
there we go. So disappointment aside, we've got some more controversy coming up now. There's 4 games now with 23 points. In number 16th on the PS4, again specifically this version, Persona 5.
Yeah, like I said, it was just like stats. Yeah, no, I did actually play it on the PS4, not the PS3. It's on the PS4 is like really a port of the PS3 version until we got Persona 5 Royal, which obviously is like made for the PS4. Could go for like that version. I've just not played enough of it, but obviously it does improvements. So it'd be like having Persona 4 and Persona 4 Golden or Persona 3 thing is the better version. Golden, we know Golden is the better version of 4 sort of thing. Like even if you only played Persona 4, you would know that obviously it's this high. It's the best JRPG I played. The art style is fantastic. The music is great. Even things like the menu and that, like the pause menu, is like the best pause menu in video games. It is just like oozing style. The combat system and that, the dungeons, it is great. the only letdown with it, going back to Persona 4, Persona 4 does have a better bunch of characters. The characters are more likable in Persona 4 than Persona 5. But everything else in Persona 5 is better than Persona 4, though, in terms of dungeon story, combat. Like the art style is similar in both, but obviously it's improvement being like on the newer hardware, and that to really get that across. It's like if you like JRPGs, you like need to play this game. It's like that good. I think it's only on PS3 and PS4 still. I don't think there's a PC version. But yeah, it's fantastic.
That being said, number 15, Persona 4 Golden, which is the superior Persona game, because I voted for it. Now, Persona 4 Golden, as Chris said, it has better characters than 5, which is why I rated it higher. I prefer Inaba to the larger Japan setting, like I can't remember, Shinjuku maybe? I can't remember.
Yeah, no, you're in where they got the damn crossing in Tokyo. And stuff.
Yeah, it's that place, right? And I just prefer Shibuya there. I think the villain is better. I think the story is better. I think the only thing that's not better is that it's an older game. The fact that it's on Vita on a handheld takes it far and away above playing it on the PS4 again. When I eventually get onto Royal on a PS5 that doesn't want to explode like my PS4 does, maybe that'll be higher. But for me, Persona 4 Golden rises to the top of the Persona cream. We've got to get through this because Craig has nothing to add.
Yeah.
Luckily, Craig, number 14 with 23 points is, of course, Mario Kart 64.
Which means that neither of you had it, which is a shame. But...
Neither of us had N64s as kids, so I'm really sorry, Craig, that this is the way it's had to happen. But yeah, Craig, tell us about your Mario Kart 64 obsession.
Oh, my love of Mario Kart 64. This is number 3 for me. Probably played it more, actually, way after the N64 gen, because I picked up an N64, like I was saying, fairly cheap for like £10-15.
That's madness now, by the way. That's madness now.
Yeah, it was. I think it might have been on eBay. It might have been even somewhere locally. I can't remember. And it was like mine and my brother's like go to, like, oh, we play a game. Oh, we're just gonna play some Mario Kart. So many great memories of just doing tourney after tourney of that game. Yeah, I loved when you win, though, when you go to the castle, when the fish sprouts the bloody trophy out of its mouth. Brilliant, lovely, great stuff.
Yeah, Mario Kart is that series. Like, so everyone has a favorite Mario Kart. They are always, to be honest with you, nearly flawless games because they're just fun. Like, there is a Mario Kart higher in this list, so we will talk about it when we get to it. But like, the Mario Kart series is one of those franchises that if I plonked any Nintendo console in front of you now, Craig, and a copy of Mario Kart, you'd immediately fall in love with it. You know, it's just one of those series.
I'd be a happy boy.
You'd be a very
apart
happy
from
boy.
Mario Kart Wii.
I think even Mario Kart Wii you'd enjoy, really. It's like, as much as I hated that at the time, like it's still a fine game, you know what I mean? Right, so let's move on from that. So number 13, another game that I believe had 2 votes. It must have got 2 votes because of the number, and that is God of War 2018. Unbelievably, it's on everyone's list but me, the PlayStation guy.
Yeah, I had it at number 16 on mine.
Yeah, I got it on. It's on. I gave it 13 points for myself.
So yeah, for you, Craig, obviously you're the least PlayStation of us all. What was it that it did to sort of break through the Craig list?
I think it might actually be the only kind of PlayStation exclusive on my list, and it was out of the ones that I played when I had my PS4 Slim for, like, the 6 months of glory that was. Or it might have been less than that. It was definitely my favorite of like the games that I played on it. The main story is fantastic. I love the kind of way it's all done in one shot. I love the kind of comedy of it when you're carrying around the head and all that sort of thing. And like, I love the way it ends, where it kind of sets up the sequel. It's a shame I would probably never play the sequel, but that is what it is. But yeah, I love it. Love the combat system. It's kind of, it does that thing where it's everyone thought it was going to be like God of War Dark Souls, but it really wasn't. It kind of did the kind of combat, but didn't have the kind of frustrating mechanics of like Dark Souls.
Very well said, my friend. And now we immediately stick with Craig, because we need to rush through this as we go to number 12 with 24 points. That is The Witcher 3,
which is a travesty that I think I'm the only one that's finished it.
You're definitely the only one that's finished it.
I actually love this game. Love Gwent. I don't know if I love Gwent more than the actual game. That would be a decision.
On this, shouldn't you?
Just Gwent on its own number one.
You've had it number 2, right? So you must have liked Gwent quite a bit.
Yeah, it's a great game. Obviously, love the DLC, love the main game. Some of the best kind of side quests in video games like ever. I love the contracts of going and kind of killing the monsters and scouting them out, and actually using the bestiary, is it called, where you go into the books and that and see the weaknesses and see which oil you need to use and which abilities you should use on the specific monsters. And obviously the story itself is great. So yeah, great game.
Nice. And also, as we get ever closer to the top of Craig's list, it is devastating to find out that Shadow of Mordor did not make his list, and because of that, it missed out by like a point because it was quite high on my list. So yes, now we swing back towards Pengul territory now for number 11, which of course he knows that no one else voted for this. That is Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater.
It's my number 2, which is Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, which is obviously being that high, the best Metal Gear game. Reason I say it's the best Metal Gear game, I have you said actually about Halo might be the highest rated thing. I have 4 Metal Gear games in my top 25, so I don't.
Thank God only one made it. Thank God.
So adding all their points together is like 44 or something like that. So yeah, it's the highest because it is like the best singular Metal Gear, if that makes sense. You can play Metal Gear actually, the first one on PS1 on its own, but it's like you have to have, like, if you play Metal Gear Solid 4 Guns of the Patriots now, you would have not a Scooby what's going on, being like obviously the fourth one. But this one is its own intricate setting, and that makes it, just an easy pick up and play game. It doesn't matter if you're in Metal Gear or not into Metal Gear. Pick up and play on that. The forest, jungle environments are it's great as well. But the main thing it's so high is the soundtrack on it is phenomenal, which is like one of the best songs ever in a game, and the boss fights, especially a certain one in the game as well. The game is very old, so obviously
Craig still might play it. You never know.
I don't know spoilers on there, but yeah, the one boss fight on it is like maybe one of the best boss fights in games, which is why it gets on its own, makes it so good. It still looks great, like the mechanic obviously with the eating and stuff on it. It does so many things so well. I did obviously say it in my lower brackets, like the PS2, because that's where I played it originally. That's where it originally came to. But it has been improved because the had a slightly wonky camera system on it, which was improved with like Subsistence. Was it Subsistence?
I think it was Substance.
It was Subsistence as 2, Substance thing, where it improved the camera. So that is the version to go. There's obviously the HD versions and stuff like that. But yeah, it's just so good. I was even tempted to replay it after I did this because it's such a good game.
So it's I actually talked about it on my trophy video. It is the game I have tried to play the most in my entire life. I have tried to play Metal Gear Solid 3 more than any other game that I've tried and failed to play. I find the setting really fascinating. I find the characters really fascinating. I find all of the stuff you talk about really cool. I love the music. It has one problem, Chris, and that is that controls in 2021 are awful. And that's his big problem for me. It's just it's a piece of history from its time that it was very unique. People didn't really know how to make third-person action games at the time, or stealth games in that respect at the time. And that is what really lets it down for me. If it had the controls of the Phantom Pain, I think I would also love the game. Because everything you said is completely true. The setting is really cool. It's like a Bond film almost. Even someone like Craig, I think, stealth aside, would probably quite enjoy the setting and stuff. It is one of those type of games, but it just the controls have always held it back for me. I'd love to try and get into it again, but I've been burnt so many times. If we get that Blue Point remake of a trilogy, you never know. You never know. Right, so let's move on now to number 10, which is my number 2 game. We reached the top 10, and that is Mario Kart 8. on the Wii U, Switch. Doesn't matter. It's the same game. As we talked about with Craig, the Mario Kart is just one of those franchises that is just, your constant love. You know what I mean? You never pick up Mario Kart and don't enjoy it. Mario Kart 8 specifically, I played for like 200 hours. And it was for a long time my number one game. The Wii U was really held up by Mario Kart for me. And I still occasionally play it on that version whenever Craig comes over. It's usually the version of Mario Kart that I'll crack out after we've played his traditional run of Mario Kart 64 that he does when he comes up. But it's just one of those games that it just hit perfectly, and if it'd been on another console, as it's been shown by the Switch, it would be a top seller at all times. Even on the Wii U, it sold like 8-9 million copies of the 13 million Wii U's. Has a bad battle mode on the Wii U version, but who plays the battle mode? You know what I mean? So, like, literally, who plays the battle mode? But it had really cool DLC, had some like other, had had a couple of F-Zero tracks, had an Animal Crossing track, had a Legend of Zelda track, and all this kind of stuff. And it's a game for everyone. It's probably the one game on my list for sure that if I put anyone in front of it, they would enjoy. And it's why it is my number 2 and our number 10. So, I keep clicking off this. It's really annoying. Number 9 is Chris's number 1 game. And that is The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker.
I'm really upset with you, Dave. Like you did say, you only had Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, and for the record, before we start, if I were to pick one of the non-Breath of the Wild games, it would have been Twilight Princess. But Wind Waker would have been close, but of those games, it would have been Twilight Princess.
Yeah, Wind Waker is again, it might be nostalgia why it's so high. Like I said, it's hard to get away from that nostalgia. Like we've had Mario Kart 64, for instance, on the list, and I was saying like recency bias with like a Death Stranding. I wasn't a Nintendo kid. Like played like Mega Drive, then PS1, then I got a GameCube, like the next gen, and got this Wind Waker because I thought it looked cool, and I was like blown away like how good it was. Then obviously I played Ocarina of Time because it's on the disc. And what made me a fan of Nintendo was that game. Also is why like I really like the game. Like the GameCube is my favorite console because of like obviously the games on it, and it's the that aspect of that. And going back to like last week, like the Breath of the Wild thing, it's like it does everything I want from a Zelda. It has issues. We all know, like when you have to look for the Triforce. Sort of like closer to the end, that's annoying, which obviously they improved with the Wii U HD version. Getting that sort of like similar to Shadow of the Colossus with that remake, like playing the Wii U version of it was like, this cemented of this being my favorite game of all time. And making like Zelda one of my favorite series of all time as well. Again, it's why like I saying like Breath of the Wild, I'm so like harsh on it because my favorite game of all time is the Zelda game, and like it's my favorite series, so it's like makes it more disappointing that I don't like Breath of the Wild for that. Like if I just thought Zelda was okay as something, then I might not have been as bothered. But that's the circumstances of that.
Yeah, and Wind Waker is a really fascinating game because again at the time it was kind of controversial because it went cartoony. But I think that's to the game's benefit because now I think the game stands and holds up much better because of that art style. It's my girlfriend's favorite game. She literally has art tattooed on herself from that game. So it's an understandable game.
Well, what we should have done is got rid of you and replaced you with Amanda. And
there would have been a lot of Zelda games on this list if that had been the case. Probably like Animal Crossing would have been number 1 though. So
2 Point Hospital.
2 Point Hospital. But yeah, it's one of those things I can understand that, and it is a great game. Like it didn't quite make my list. I think had Craig played it probably would have been on his list. It's just one of those things. And so for the next one of our games, which should have been higher, as my number 1 game, which I don't actually think any of you would have guessed, weirdly, which it's really obvious if you know me, but it's just one of those things I don't think we've talked about a lot. My number 1 game was Pokemon Heart Gold.
Okay.
Love the Pokemon series. Obviously grew up with them, played them all, apart from like the Ruby and Sapphire gen, because I was an angsty teen at that point.
I missed that gen as well.
Yeah, we were angsty teens, Chris. We're the same age, weren't we? So Pokemon Gold at the time was it was the game that like changed how I look at RPGs. Like I liked Pokemon Red and I liked like Final Fantasy VII, but really Pokemon Gold was the game that pushed me into like turn-based RPGs being my favorite genre. And Heart Gold just does everything that it does, but better, because it's a remake. It has added content. It has more of the Pokemon. It has this the thing about Gold is it had the day and night cycle. It had the daily events. It was almost like an MMO in like a weird way. Like you logged in on certain days to do certain things, and it was just great. You completed the main Johto quest, and then you got to hop on the I don't know if it is the SS Anne, it might be something else. You hop on the ship and you go to the setting of the first game, because this is a sequel, and you do the 8 badges. You see how the world has developed since Pokemon Red, culminating in a big boss fight at the end with the highest level trainer in all of the games. And it's just such fan service for a Pokemon fan. You know, it's really the only, in my opinion, it's the only more Pokemon game that actually feels like a sequel. Like it feels like it's developed more than the previous game, and after that it just became the formula of the same old, and that's really why Pokemon is where it is. It's why I still buy the Pokemon games, and then I'm always shocked when I don't like them as much, because they're just a formula now. Whereas Heart Gold, Gold, Silver, Crystal, really were sequels. They really did improve dramatically on the previous game, and it was a great game. It really, and it is still now. Even now, I could play Pokemon Heart Gold tonight to the finish. I'd love it. So yeah, that's why it was my number one, and it was our. Let's see if I can pull this up now, because I've got to do multiple.
It is interesting. We've both gone for obviously Nintendo games at number one.
Considering that we're both Sega fans and there isn't a Sonic game on this list, yeah, that is quite impressive.
You don't have a Sonic game in your top 5?
There isn't, no. I mean,
no.
I
just assumed that was a thing.
I toyed with the idea of Sonic Adventure because I like that game in like almost an ironic sense, because I do enjoy playing it, but it's not. I know that it's not. It's not my top 25 favorite or best games. It never will. Like I
did have a Sonic game in my top 25. It's I think it's number 21.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
Sonic's one of those things. Like, you know, it is what it is. It's not Mario. I don't think there is a mainline Mario game in our list either. There isn't, which is crazy. People are gonna be really upset on the forum about that. Me and Chris had different Mario games. That's why.
Yeah, I was gonna say my Mario game is 24.
Yeah, you had Yoshi's Island. I had Super Mario World.
No, yeah, actually, I got 2 Mario games. I was looking at the bottom. Yeah, I have got another one. That was 18 points. For number 8 was Yoshi's Island.
So we've established that Mario Kart is better than Mario. That's all you need to know.
Well, I didn't have a Mario Kart at all in my top 25, so.
No, not even Double Dash. Anyway, let's move on from that. So a game that was on at least 2 lists, and it could have been 3. I don't think it was on Craig's in the end, and that is, with 25 points, number 7, Horizon Zero Dawn. So it was very high on my list, which I think is the majority of its points.
Yeah, because it was 3 below God of War on my list. So
yeah, I loved Horizon Zero Dawn. Horizon Zero Dawn is the PS4 game for me. Like I've got the platinum, I've done the DLC, I did all the collectibles. It's one of those games that I just lived in. When we first moved to Bristol and I had no internet, it was when I really got deep into that game, and then last year I was able to get the platinum. It just does everything right for this type of game. Like it's not so big that it's overwhelming. The side quests are pretty fun. The collectibles are very easy to do. They're very laid out. You know what you're missing, which is sometimes a problem with these type of games. Combat was great. It's even like the stealth mechanic was pretty cool. It's just cool to fight giant robot monsters and then rip off their weapons and shoot them with them, you know. Story, I thought it told a very interesting story. It does sequel bait quite a bit, and obviously we are getting a sequel, so you know, I think it's one of the big franchises. And to see a studio like Guerrilla go from Killzone, which is a franchise that I really like, take the next step up to a game like Horizon Zero Dawn, is very impressive. And like I said, it's one of my favorite PS4 games for sure.
Yeah. Like I said, it is on my list as well. And it's like you're saying, like the sequel is like one of the things that I'm excited about with the PS5 because of like the sequel of that and like God of War, for instance, as well.
Yeah, I think it nearly made my list. It didn't quite. Like when I was getting towards the bottom of it, it got harder and harder. I found because you have so many things you kind of want to include.
Yeah,
I really do like the game. I think the thing that probably kept off my list was the only kind of negative I have of the game was I didn't massively like the combat. I love the story, love the world. I love like the weather in that game. DLC was great, but yeah, for me the combat just wasn't as great as like I wanted it to be.
Nice. We've got a little bit of mic interference with you, Craig. Just gonna toy around with your settings a second. I think that might be okay. Anyway, yeah, I was surprised it wasn't on your list, but I can completely understand why. So, right, the top 6 now, boys. All of these games have 34 points or above. It's very It's a very interesting list, actually. There's a lot of games you would not suspect would be on a top 25 list with us, us 3. So, at number 6, no votes from Craig. Very high on my list and high on Chris's list, and that is Fire Emblem Awakening on the 3DS, which is a strategy RPG. Arguably the game that saved that franchise. Really is what made it popular.
I had to save the franchise.
Yeah, it's the game it's the Final Fantasy VII of Fire Emblem. It's the game that made the series popular. I absolutely adored it. It was my favorite 3DS game.
Yeah, it is my favorite 3DS game.
By an absolute shadow of a doubt.
It's my highest 3DS game on this list, but it's my favorite 3DS game. It's fantastic. It's like you say, got me into the series, playing the next 2 on the 3DS as well. Played a bit of like Shadows of
Valentia, which I completely is. That's my second favorite Fire Emblem. Valentia,
because it came out after the Switch and stuff like that. I totally missed it. And like Three Houses is great as well on the Switch. It is pretty decent, and obviously, it's not like Mario Kart. You're mostly going to get another one again on the Switch, which would be good as well.
100%. But Awakening is a crazy great game. It's not a game I ever want to spoil. It has great characters. It's got some fantastic mechanics. It's really the game that could get anyone into strategy RPGs, in my opinion. I think it holds enough of a hand, but it's also can be brutally difficult if you want it to be, especially if you play with permadeath on. But yeah, I think it's the top rated 3DS game, which it is, and it is no surprise to me that it's a top 6 game. So we're into the top 5, boys. Obviously, you know from your own list what hasn't come up yet.
Yeah, I still have quite a few actually.
You do still have quite a few, Chris. The top 5 list is actually top 3 is very Craig, and I think it's bolstered by me, if I'm honest. So people are going to be really annoyed because I know the type of game when you put a video out that's top 25 games, right? People have expectations for what type of games are going to be on there.
They want something Japanese,
and it's really not.
I guess they're expecting, like I was saying, like we're going through so far. Like I was disappointed that you didn't vote for like Ocarina of Time, Dave, because that's sort of what you like saying, and I think that's what people expect from like top 25 lists. You expect like Ocarina of Time, Super Mario 64, Final Fantasy VII, possibly first Metal Gear Solid, not 3. You're expecting like a Last of Us or Witcher, for instance, would be you're expecting those sort of. I think most people expect to be in the top 20, like closer to top 25. Not.
I think it's good that we're not just giving people what they expect and we're giving.
Yeah, this is why I wanted to do the combined version of doing this. I think that actually fleshes out games you actually enjoy as opposed to like a popularity contest. So, without further ado, the top 5, boys. In 5th place with 35 points, Final Fantasy IX.
Oh, I said it. I didn't. I thought it would be higher, but yeah.
So again, me and Chris both adore. For me, it is the pinnacle of the Final Fantasy series. Really, I think 10 is good, and beyond that, Final Fantasy is dead. I don't want to be that guy. I like it. For me, the games now are not Final Fantasy games anymore. They're just games that have Final Fantasy written on the front. And 9, it was the last one. It was really an homage to all the other Final Fantasy games. There's lots of stuff that is like little hints at the first 6 games in particular. The characters are fantastic. The story is actually like heartbreakingly good. Like you feel for these characters as they go through their trepidations, and every little set piece just builds and builds and builds. The battle system is pretty great. I mean, the trance system is not quite as good as Limit Breaks, really, but compared to 8, it's different gravy. You got characters like Vivi that are now iconic Final Fantasy characters. And it's I played it recently on the Switch like 2 years ago, and I played it all the way through in like 40 hours. Loved every second of it. It still holds up fantastically well for a PS1 game. But I'm sure Chris is going to agree with me.
I was going to say it looks ridiculously good for a PS1 game. Like it came out late PS1.
It was 2001. It was so late that it actually had a PS2 demo disc for Final Fantasy X in it. That's how late it came out.
It looks like an early PS2 game, and that's like even that's doing it like a bit of disservice but we obviously got Final Fantasy X on the PS2, which obviously takes a different style choice in that, but thing, and even 12 things. But yeah, it's my favorite Final Fantasy, and that I think it's number 9 on my list. So very very high. Guessing it was pretty high on yours then, Dave.
Yeah, I had 3 Final Fantasies on my list. 7 remake and 10 did not make the cut, sadly.
I had 2. The next Final Fantasy was below mine, which was Crisis Core. So I've gone for a spin-off. Gone
for a hipster choice. Obviously, Craig has not played a Final Fantasy, sadly. Okay. If I were to recommend a turn-based one, 9 and 10 are the ones I'd recommend. In all actuality, the one that Craig would like is 15. So
yeah, 15.
15 is the one that Craig, because it's not Final Fantasy, it's a open-world RPG with Final Fantasy characters in it occasionally.
Yeah.
So that's my controversy for the Final Fantasy community. I do apologise for that.
I do get it, but then if you go like, I know we're going to get 16 through soon, but 11 and 14 are both MMOs. So if you discount those, really, you're not having that many since 10. Had what, 3?
10 to 12, 13, 13 to Lightning Returns, 15.
Yeah.
But, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I was going to say...
It's been 20 years since a Final Fantasy I liked.
Yeah, I was just thinking like mainline. I was thinking 12, 13, 15. So...
But yeah, so it's been about 20 years since there's been one I like, so that's what I'm saying. So we are going to get so much hate for our top 4.
So I now know that like the games that are in the top 4, I just don't know the order.
You don't know the order, right? So this
is going to be...
Chris is going to be disowning our podcast.
In particular is great. I hope it wins. I really hope it wins.
So I don't think it has one. I think the one you're on about is number 4. But our number 4 game with 35 points, missing out on the top spot by 6 points, is Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, that myself and Craig put very highly. I was very close to going Modern Warfare 2, but the story mode for Modern Warfare 1 just edged it for me because it was such an impactful game. And I know it's kind of hard with Call of Duty because it's such a big franchise now that I think people forget that 4 really started that. You know what I mean? Like, it really revolutionized online multiplayer for shooters. It was the first one that had like a decent loadout system, that had this progression system where you got more stuff as you played, like had kill streaks and stuff that were like completely new ideas at the time. It had like almost flawless map design for multiplayer as well. And then you talk about the single player, the impactful moments in that single player, like that game starts
Everyone
off.
Still talks about that single player.
Everyone has a memory. Everyone talks about the nuke. Everyone talks about all gillied up. Everyone talks about the ship at the beginning. Everyone talks about Mile High Club and all this kind of stuff. And it is just an incredible game. And even now, the remaster, I know Activision have milked it and they've put in microtransactions and all that good shit. But yeah, it's just a crazy game. And if you were to talk to your experience with it, Craig.
Yeah, so it's actually this is my first like online game that I ever played. It was the first Call of Duty that I played, and I absolutely loved it. Except the single player was great. Did it better, and Mile High Club on better. I remember just sitting there doing your like 1 minute 20 runs over and over again. And you get to the end and you get where he's got the hostage and you shoot him in the chest and it goes, no, you're a veteran, you've got to get the headshot, and you nearly throw your controller and you do it again. Love it. So yeah, single player's great. And yeah, you're right, multiplayer was kind of revolutionary at the time. It was. Everyone says they love Call of Duty 3, but Call of Duty 4 is really the one.
3, no one says they like 3, right? I fucking hated 3.
Oh,
3 was
everyone used to go, 3 was great, but no, 4 was the one.
Okay, really with 3 you mean Modern Warfare 3, not Call of Duty 3.
No, Call of Duty 3.
No one likes 3, Craig. No one I've ever met has said to me Call of Duty 3. No, World at War was not 3. World at War was 5, technically. Yeah, 3 is the World War 2 one. It sucks. Yeah. It sucks. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. But yeah, the multiplayer is great. So the map design is amazing. Mm-hmm. When I think back now, I played a lot of like Call of Duty. I played a lot of the ones after this. and still my favourite maps from Call of Duty. A lot of them are COD 4 maps.
There's a reason they bring them back all the time.
Oh yeah, definitely. I still think of Backlot. I still think of Crossroads and stuff like that. Yeah, great game. Revolutionary. This is one that really put Call of Duty on the map back in the day.
Yeah, it did. Because no one really talked about Call of Duty. Like, when you say Call of Duty 3, like, no one talked about Call of Duty really until, the fourth one with Modern Warfare. It is a great shooter. I do think they didn't obviously make my list. It's one I may consider, like, if I was doing like a top 100 or something, but there is better first-person shooters, in my opinion. Like, I got 2 Halos, for instance, on my list, which sort of thing prefer. But the multiplayer was good. I always remember, I can't remember what the map was. It was like quite a small one. You basically spawned and you have someone in front of you could kill. I can't remember.
Shipment.
Yeah, I don't know what I can't remember it's called, but yeah, I always remember that
it
map
was definitely Shipment.
Being a bit hilarious.
Yeah, and Call of Duty has obviously gone on, and it's now the juggernaut that it is. But at the time, and I played Finest Hour and 2 a lot, on the original Xbox, and then subsequently the Xbox 360 at launch. So I pre-ordered 4. I still have my special edition because they didn't have my normal edition. I ordered a normal edition, didn't have it, so I just bought the special edition that had this really sick SAS documentary DVD that had like 3 hours of SAS documentaries that I used to watch all the time, and this like video like how to play multiplayer was sick. It's great. There's a poster that I had at uni. Oh, fantastic. So from one bit of Pengel shame to the next, number 3 on our top 25 Pod of War list is a game that I believe I definitely picked. Craig definitely picked. I'm not sure if Chris did. I don't think he did. And with a massive 37 points, Halo 3.
Nope.
No. Yes, this is my number 6.
And it was
my highest rated.
It was fairly high for me as well. Halo 3, just another game that came out the year before COD 4, I believe. It might have been the same year.
I think it was the year before.
It was September 27th.
I was going to say Halo 3 was 2007.
Yes, I can't ever remember when Call of Duty came out.
I can't remember.
But Halo 3 is tough with Halo, right? Because I had CE on my list as well. Ultimately, the multiplayer is what pushed 3 to the top of my list. I still think the campaign's pretty great. It was 1 to 4 player co-op, which is always sick. All the levels are pretty memorable. The characters are pretty memorable. You finished the fight, so to speak. At the time, we thought it was just going to be the end of the main series, and it followed on from 2, which had a really disappointing ending. But I think 3 improves upon 2 in almost every way. Again, and at the time, it was such a juggernaut. I know it's one of those series now that again is looked down on a little bit, but at the time, it was beyond, and it's still a great game now. You had Forge mode, which was crazy. You obviously had all the multiplayer stuff, and the matchmaking was kind of perfected. It was the early 360 matchmaking greatness, I think. And for me personally, it's a game that I will always remember as my favorite first-person shooter for sure. How about you, Craig?
Yeah, like you said, the multiplayer was great. And that game is probably, like I said, Reach was my most played multiplayer Halo game. So for me, it's probably more actually the campaign. I absolutely love the campaign for Halo 3.
Yeah.
I played it. Like I said, I played it solo. I did a 4-person run. I remember doing a 4-person legendary run, which was just such good fun. And I know me and you have gone back on the Master Chief Collection and done a duo run, which was great. I that final mission is just legendary on the Warhog. Love that game.
Yeah, and it's a game that I know that at some point in the next couple of years, me and you will play again. And Halo has this quality for just the co-op gameplay is perfect. And Halo 3, it does have a couple of frustrating levels here and there, but on the whole, it's such a fantastic game. So we're getting into the final 2 now. So Craig is going to know what number 1 is, and he's not allowed to say.
Yeah.
So number 2 is a game that all 3 of us picked. I don't believe number 1 was picked.
I know what number 1 is straight away.
So number 1 was not picked by Chris.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, so number 2 with 40 points. It misses out by 1 point.
So this is the real. Surely this is the real number 1. That's the thing we all picked.
No, Chris. It's on points. Okay.
Yeah, I know it is, but
it wasn't. That's not how it works, Chris. We've done it. No. This is the scientific aggregate score. 40 points. Forza Horizon 4. Craig was right. I was very close to putting Forza Horizon 3 on instead. I played Forza Horizon 3 and 4 together, took turns to really flesh out why 4 was a better game. And it is. It's a better game. And I love 3, but 4 is just a better game. Forza Horizon 4, it is insane to me that a game of this quality launched onto Game Pass. And I didn't pay full price for it. It's both simmy and arcadey. The DLC is unreal good. The amount of content is unreal good. The cars feel fantastic. The customization is insane. You can play multiplayer. You can have fun. You can take it seriously. You could play that game every day for a year and probably still have content. It's good content. It's challenging. It's good for beginners. It looks great. It runs great on the new consoles. It is just one of those games that I personally don't think gets talked about enough. Whenever anyone brings up this Game Pass discussion, it's always like Sony-based media. No one ever says, "Oh, but Forza Horizon 4 is on Game Pass," because it is the best game on Game Pass, and I will argue that till the cows come home.
It's the best game on. Well, obviously the Xbox Series consoles are out now, so obviously the library will improve on them over time. But it's definitely the best game on Xbox. Like Xbox One sort of thing in terms of like exclusive stuff on there is miles in front. And it's just like I'm not even a big big racing fan, so like be like quite pretty high on my list. Like shows how good it is.
Oh, you think? None of us three would say we are hardcore racing guys, yet between us we've managed to put this game second. Just kind of shows how kind of good and how kind of versatile, I guess is maybe the right word to use for this game, is you can literally just pick up and play it whenever you want and just you're going to have fun. Like I said, there's so much to do. The DLC was great. I actually randomly turned it on earlier because I just wanted something that had the Dolby Atmos sound for the track maneuver headset and that. And like I was just driving around for about 5 minutes and just in disbelief at how well it all runs and how it all works. Playing it now like 60 frames per second in the 4K with the Dolby Atmos sound, it's so crazy how good that game is and how good it looks and how good it performs.
And I want Forza Horizon 5 this year so badly.
Yep.
So badly. So we get to number 1. So games that have missed out, we've got stuff like Doom Eternal, we've got Nier Automata, we've got Guns of the Patriots, we've got all these games, Shadow of Mordor, all these games that have missed out. But our number
me and
one
Dave
game,
know.
We Chris, do know. Chris does not know.
Well, it's I can't even think what it could be. It's a game that we like both go for. Like a COD is kind of like, yeah, I can get that and stuff like that. But I can't think of something that you like go for a Halo, but both maybe a Gears of War game. But maybe. I don't.
So this game is Craig's number 1 for 25 points. I placed it whatever it was to get 16 points, which I think was 8th or 9th. And that game is, of course, Gears of War 1.
Okay, I get it.
You're disappointed as well. I love it.
Yeah, because the second one is better.
So, having played all the games recently, Chris, I have to disagree. And the reason I disagree is that the campaign for Gears of War 1 is head and shoulders better than any other Gears campaign, in my opinion. It really is. It is a timeless campaign. It's almost Halo in its structure. It's this perfect co-op experience. It's got this kind of like threatening uneasiness about it that they've tried to recreate with the later games and they just haven't been able to do it, because I think the later games
most horror-y of the Gears campaigns.
Yeah, and I think the later games are too blockbuster. I think that's why. I think it's a lot more like indie in a weird way. Sure, it's the Gears game that doesn't have Horde mode. I personally don't play a lot of Horde mode. I don't think Craig does either. No. Multiplayer-wise, it was the first 360 game. It was the first game that I took Halo 2 out of my console, and I just played this until Halo 3. Like, the multiplayer is unreal. Again, much like Call of Duty and Halo, all the maps from this game are in all of the Gears of War games after it. Stuff like Gridlock, Canals, these are fantastic maps that just, defined a generation. It was a hard multiplayer game as well, which was rare at the time, and I really enjoyed it.
It was brutal.
It was brutally. If you got 2 kills in a game, you were like, God.
Yeah, you kind of had to use the shotgun. And it was a really weird meta where you kind of had to basically get good with the shotgun, otherwise you would just get destroyed over and over again.
Yeah, you always know when you play newer Gears games when you're coming up against a Gears 1 veteran. Like if you ever played with me, you know I'm not aiming. I'm looking down. You know, I'm hip firing that shotgun and people are dying. You know what I mean? Yeah, and like I said, the first time you encounter the Berserker. Is like an insane thing. At the time, it was crazy, that level.
Massive jump scare as well.
Massive jump scare. The soundtrack really scared the shit out of you as well. All the time, you'd be like, it would just make the big noise, and there'd be like a hanging body in front of you, and you're like, oh, Jesus Christ. Obviously, the story of Dom and Marcus. I know it's a very like thick-necked hoorah kind of game.
Bro.
It's very very bro game, but like it works, like it fits its setting completely. The weapons are so satisfying to use. There isn't many in the first game. It's about 5, maybe 6, and they're all satisfying to use. The active reload system is simple but genius. Like you really feel like you're in a firefight. You're there and you're involved. You've got to time this as well as looking at what you're aiming at and stuff. It's really really underrated, dramatically underrated game and series. I think personally. It is fascinating to me that it did end up being number 1. I think by the virtue of just mine and Craig's love for it. I think obviously it was Craig's number 1, so it's it's a reason. It's a reason he likes it. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, it's another game. It's timeless. Me and Craig could turn that on this evening, and we'd have a great time. You know what I mean? It's just one of those games.
Yeah, it was really hard actually for me when I was in the list to kind of try and kind of quantify games that I love for multiplayer, like Call of Duty, for example, with games that I love for like single player, like let's say like a BioShock or something like that. But it's kind of the reason why this ended up being number 1 for me was because it had the great multiplayer that I played a lot, and then it also had the great single player, which I played. It's probably the most played single player game I've ever played. I've played that through so many times. I've done like single runs, I've done co-op runs with like 3 different people, so that's why I kind of rated it so highly, because like I said, both aspects of it were so good for me.
Yeah, and as as a behind the scenes, now the list is done and people are upset. When I was doing this list, my initial thought was, Forza Horizon's got this in the bag. Like soon as the list came in, I sat there and I was like, it's got it in the bag surely. So it was a pleasant surprise to see Gears 1 get as high as it did, and there's some interesting picks. Obviously, I think for me, my favorite game jumps around quite a lot. So I have probably 5 games which I can justify being number 1. This time it was Pokemon. It could have easily been Sleeping Dogs, to be honest with you. And obviously for Chris's biggest issue with his list in terms of getting it onto the main list is it was all much of the same, and so like for example, in regards to for Craig had Guitar Hero 2 on his list, and I had Guitar Hero 3. Chris had Crisis Core, whereas I had Remake. That's the kind of stuff that kind of stops certain games getting probably better placed than they should have been, perhaps. Halo CE was the 26th game on the list, because me, Chris, and maybe even Craig, I'm not sure if Craig did, had that list. And again, CE is the story Halo game, the single player Halo game. Yeah. That's the best thing about it. But the multiplayer was just local, and I had some good LAN memories, but I still prefer the later games.
This is the thing. This is the big difference. Looking at my top 25, some of them have multiplayer aspects, like Halo Combat Evolved, and I did play Halo Combat Evolved a lot, multiplayer, especially System Link and stuff like that. And that's what is above Reach, even though they're both fairly low down. But I really, my list pretty much is single player only.
Yeah, and I think when you do these top lists, and especially when you do a singular top list, I think those are generally speaking, are the games that come to the top, because without being rude to IGN and GameSpot, the people that review games for them, generally speaking, more of them are single player players than multiplayer players. They usually have a multiplayer person. Yeah, of course they are. And you've got to be trendy. You can't just be like COD is one of the best games of all time. You know what I mean? Like, you just can't say that. So it's fascinating. I really enjoyed doing this list. The combining the list was very fascinating to me to see the insight into different people. I think Craig's list overall is the most varied if I were to throw the list up, Craig's list is by far the most varied. Me and Chris are very much set in our ways. Like, there's genres that me and Chris like, and we like them throughout. Like, for me, it's JRPGs. For Chris, it's Metal Gear Solid, basically. But yeah.
Yeah, mine's definitely the third-person action adventure game.
Yeah, and like mine is very JRPG heavy, but I think it's interesting to see where we cross over. So like, I have quite a lot of smatterings of 360. 360 was like, I was at that age where the 360 really hit for me, and obviously for Craig, that's what basically got him back into gaming. So it's very interesting to see that that's really the console that pushed. Whereas for Chris, it was obviously much more PS3 focused that era. So perhaps the 360 games don't quite come to the crop, but
yeah. See, I don't really think Well, obviously, I've got Reach, and actually, I didn't play that much PS3 like back then. Like, most of my list is, like I said, is very PlayStation heavy, and it's actually a lot of PS4. Like, it's got like, if you're going console exclusives, because obviously Death Stranding's on PC, it's 5 PS4 exclusives on the list. So it's, heavy with that. Again, they're all single player sort of games. Has it got recency bias? Like, we're just coming off that generation and stuff like that. Played it for PS4 for 7 years. Is that a factor and sort of thing? I don't know if that is the case or not. But I got some Nintendo stuff on there as well. So yeah.
What's fascinating is the top 5 games in our combined list are all available on Xbox Series X. All 5 games. You can play them in some way, shape, or form on the Series X, which is a very fascinating statistic. Again,
3 of them on Game Pass.
I was going to say they all be playable on Xbox One as well.
4 of them are on Game Pass.
There we go.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing, isn't it? Really. I just like to use the most. I like to use the most recent console.
Yeah, I just thought someone was like on, I don't know, a budget.
If you've got Xbox One, you can play all our top 5 games. I'm surprised there isn't as much Nintendo in that top 5, and I guess it's really Craig is the outlier because he doesn't really play too much Nintendo, and me and you have different tastes, Chris. So that's probably which is quite interesting.
Because I'm into, like, you got Heart Gold. If I was going for a Pokemon game, and again, it was one that was going to, like, you would have been near the bottom thing. I was going to put Pokemon. I would have put Pokemon Red, for instance. So it's like that weird thing. We might, if I put a Pokemon game, it would be a different one to you. Like,
if you'd had a pair of bollocks and given Persona 4 Golden instead of Persona 5, that would have won. So it's on you. It's your fault. The biggest one to miss for me is Championship Manager 0102. I was very upset they didn't quite make it, if I'm honest.
Did you vote for any Uncharted, Dave?
Uncharted 3.
Well, 3? Okay.
3 is my favourite one. Because it's the same as 2, but it doesn't have the awful boss fight at the end.
Okay.
I really liked 3. 3 is I've replayed them recently, and it's another one of those. Again, if you'd pick 3 or I'd pick 2, that would have been favourably on the list. But 3 is my favourite.
Well, I put 2 as 25, so I only got 1 point.
Yeah, I think 3 was like 20th for me. Drake's Deception. Really, again, I think it's somewhat underrated. 3 actually. I think I do prefer it to 2 because it's just 2.
Well, I was flipping between 2. I was flipping between 2 and 4, and I was like, so I went for 2 in the end. So.
Because I don't have my list on me, so I'm trying to think of other sort of big franchises that really missed out.
I only had 1 Resident Evil game on my list, which was
I had Resident Evil 7.
Yeah, I was surprised that Chris didn't have 7 at all, but then I remembered he's really it's 4 or 2, right, for you pretty much.
3. I would have put on there Nemesis. Like I said, there's games like missing the cut stuff. You got classic Resident Evil 2, classic Resident Evil 3. You've got things like Journey. I got Journey on here. Same thing like Life is Strange, missed it. Gone Home, missed the cut. You had things like Control, missed the cut as well.
If Gone Home had ended up on the list, I think I would have thrown my laptop. So
yeah,
that's the Pengals game in it. That one, that's. I mean, Shadow of the Colossus, I think, is the Pengals pick on this. If you're going to pick a Pengals game, I think Shadow of the Colossus is the Pengal pick.
Yeah,
sure.
Like Ico missed the car. Things like that. Bayonetta 2, considered. Double Dash was up there. That was my pick for a Mario Kart game. But these ones like Uncharted 2 took the 25th spot, but any of those sort of ones could have made it. Again, maybe I've gone for heavy Metal Gear. I got like 4 in there. Maybe I should have gone right. I was just going to go for one Metal Gear game, but then it's not.
It's what you like.
It's up to you.
If your favorite, if Metal Gear Solid is your favorite series, it's going to be heavily represented, which is fair enough. But so that was our top 25 list, guys. I hope you enjoyed us going through that video. This is the second hour plus video I've recorded today, so my throat is gone. Okay, so next week we'll have a different chat. It'll be a surprise. We may do some like Evercade chat or some retro chat or something. I don't know, but we need to involve Craig, right? So we'll talk about Game Pass again. Let's do a whole week of it. We'll do a month of Game Pass.
What Craig does, he plays Banjo and Perfect Dark and any other game that's from the N64 that's available on Xbox.
If I still lived in Taunton, I would lend you my N64 to play Ocarina of Time this week, but sadly I don't, so I'm sorry.
So Craig plays Rare Replay, and we both play some N64, and there you go.
God, I want to play an actual N64, Chris. Do you really want to do that?
Well, I haven't got an actual N64, but I can easily find ways to play N64.
Yeah, but all the consoles you own, you don't own an N64. That's mental.
Yeah. All the best games available elsewhere, so...
Yeah, Craig. God. Anyway, before this turns into a bloodbath, thank you for watching the video. Drop a like, drop a subscribe if you enjoy it. There's plenty more coming next week. I've been your host here, Gizmo, and I and the boys will see you next weekend.
Forza Horizon 4 was robbed. Bye.